Hi everyone, my name's Vanessa McCann and I'm the team leader of estuary management at Central Coast Council. It's hard to believe it's been a busy 2 years since the Tuggerah Lakes Expert Panel handed down their final report to the New South Wales Government in the final hours of 2020. Today I wanted to provide an update on the progress Council has made in implementing the recommendations with the support of the New South Wales Government. But first, let's take a moment to look back at why we ended up with a panel in the first place and what they found. I'm sure these images and articles aren't news to any of you. Tuggerah Lakes has been a contentious waterway for as long as I can remember, and in the face of ongoing community and political pressure, the expert panel was announced in late 2019. The panel was selected and appointed in early 2020 and was made up of 8 industry professionals who were given the terms of reference to focus on water quality. We were coming out of a fairly long dry period, so flooding wasn't high on the political agenda at the time. In the ensuing 10 months, the panel undertook extensive community engagement, reviewed every past study they could find, and ultimately prepared a massive 446-page final report. The panel held follow-up community information sessions in July of 2021, and the recordings of those are available on our Your Voice, Our Coast/Waterways webpage. Unsurprisingly, the panel identified that significant change had occurred in the lakes and catchment over the past 60 plus years, and that change had had a negative impact on the estuary. A fairly significant statement they made was that Tuggerah Lakes are at a crossroads, and that without best practice policy and catchment management in place, potentially irrecoverable threats to the water quality of Tuggerah Lakes are likely. The lakes of today are impacted by many things, including changed hydrology, water supply offtake, extensive urbanisation and stormwater pollution, wet weather sewage overflows, catchment erosion, ash dams, mine subsidence, nearshore pollution, and clearing of important wetland and riparian vegetation. For some estuaries that are well flushed by the ocean, these problems are pushed out to sea, but for Tuggerah Lakes, the pollutants stay in the lake and contribute to its ongoing failing health. One key outcome was that a communication reset was required, that the community have low levels of trust in councillors, local MPs and Central Coast Council staff, and attribute this to a perceived history of inaction, misinformation, politics, lack of transparency, information which contradicts their personal experience, and the perception of an ad hoc approach to the management of Tuggerah Lakes. They also stated that the cycle of poor communication resulting in an escalation of tensions followed by reactive action needs to be broken. This was really hard to read. It's something my team and I have worked very hard to overcome over the past 15 plus years, but the reality is we can't do it alone. I'm really grateful that the panel acknowledged the value of our work, our innovation, and our extensive efforts to turn the situation around. At the same time, they recognised we were fighting an uphill battle which we couldn't win alone. Other key findings included that there is no quick fix. It took us time to get here and it will take time to recover. In reality, we will likely never see the lakes of the 1940s and 50s again. So we need to find a compromise and set realistic targets for us to continue to work towards together. A permanent ocean entrance is not recommended. The panel included very experienced and renowned coastal engineers and estuary scientists who pored over the literature and undertook their own investigations in coming to this conclusion. A silver bullet solution would be wonderful, but the reality is there isn't one. Further, they found that population growth presents a significant risk, that improved catchment management is critical, that stormwater management is currently inadequate despite having more GPTs than any estuary I know of, and that a consistent source of funding is required. The final report included 54 recommendations, which were scattered throughout, and we worked with DPE to itemise them and group them by theme to allow us to carry them forward in our planning and our action. Management recommendations related to overarching concepts, community engagement, entrance management, water quality and ecology, sustainable catchment management, and other opportunities. I'm happy to report that action has begun on 70% of the 54 recommendations, which includes those which are completed, ongoing, underway or planned into the CMP. Even whilst we've been struggling through the financial crisis, back-to-back natural disasters and organisational change, we've worked really hard to integrate the recommendations into what we are doing and what we are planning. My team are still at full capacity delivering CMPs, the $4.7 million ERF grant and the next one that's coming through, and all of our other important programs. So I want to take the time to acknowledge their incredible efforts. Having people who care and are committed to making change and seeing these plans come to life is fundamentally important, and it is by no means an easy job. Some of the recommendations are outside of the scope of the CMP, given that it's focused on the coastal zone, so a supporting catchment management plan will be required to pick these up. Some are also in train in one form or another via other council strategies, policies and activities, which is really great to see. And lastly, some are outside of council's responsibilities, are not feasible at this time or require further validation. I'll now step through some case study examples and where those recommendations are up to. Recommendation 1 was a biggie: to develop strategic and measurable plans for dredging, RAC, water quality, stormwater, entrance flood management, and sustainable catchment development. While these will take time to tick off, significant progress is being made through stages 2 and 3 of the CMP, with the co-design of an entrance management strategy, which goes beyond just flood mitigation, and a RAC management strategy. Both of these will be developed with community focus groups made up of members of the public. We recently published the entrance management study and the interim entrance management procedure, which were tested in March and July of this year, and provide a good guide for intervention in the lead up to and during a flood event. A catchment management plan, as I said, is proposed to sit alongside the CMP and address issues outside of the coastal zone. However, how that will be resourced is yet to be determined. Community engagement was a key focus of the panel's report, and recommendation 10 was about working with the community to grow a shared understanding of the lakes management dilemma, what is actually going on and what makes managing the lakes so difficult. We've hosted a whole range of different community engagement and education events over the past 2 years. We've run our eco tours and courses. We've hosted a webinar. We've set up the Change Makers course. We publish our annual waterway report card and a monthly e-news. But one of the most relevant examples of this is RAC management. So often we hear that it's easy and we're doing it wrong, but few people have visibility over all of the complexities and constraints. So again, we're inviting a community focus group to join us in exploring these complexities, the management dilemma, and deciding on a new way forward via a RAC management strategy. It is going to be a fascinating journey. In terms of entrance management, there were several relevant recommendations, but focusing on 15 and 15A, which included continuing dredging of the entrance in the medium term and undertaking a feasibility assessment to review water level impacts, tidal exchange, clarity impacts, and socioeconomic and tourism impacts. You're all aware that we dredged in 2020 and we were scheduled to dredge again in 22, but the floods beat us to it. The channel is currently in a moderately open condition, which requires no physical intervention per the interim management procedure. We've installed a new level sensor on the entrance bridge, we've upgraded the channel cameras, and we've installed a co-snap station so people can take photos from a fixed point of the channel. We've also commenced the development of a Tuggerah Lakes entrance options paper, which in a nutshell will consider the natural coastal processes at play within the channel compartment and the estuary and the effect of various intervention measures on those processes. It will also specifically identify and assess the environmental, social, economic and community values of the entrance channel and the estuary more broadly in order to explore and validate future management options. This is a key opportunity to participate in a joint fact-finding and co-learning process to foster a greater understanding and explore the management challenges together through multiple lenses. The information gathered from the technical assessments will facilitate development of the options paper, which will clearly communicate the various management options available in the short, medium and long term, along with their corresponding benefits and/or impacts. This information will then assist in identifying the preferred options and directly inform the development of a holistic Tuggerah Lakes entrance management strategy during stage 3 of the CMP. This strategy will then guide entrance management in the longer term. Recommendations 21 and 23 were about continuing our wetland restoration and conservation efforts and continuing to monitor and adaptively manage the estuary to ensure actions are effective and if not, that they're adjusted accordingly. In the past 2 years, we've updated and ground truthed our wetland maps across the whole LGA. We've completed condition assessments and prioritised management actions which inform our on-ground works. We've commissioned a wetland refugia study to look at how wetlands will be impacted by sea level rise and how we can support their future resilience. And we've completed a foreshore vegetation assessment to help guide the management of foreshores over the next 5 to 10 years. In the spirit of doing and not just planning, you'll be pleased to know that we've completed a huge amount of wetland, saltmarsh and riparian restoration since 2020, equating to 312 football fields of environmental land restored. Our monitoring programs are some of the best in the state, and we continue to build on them over time. Our baseline MER program includes ecological health assessment at over 100 locations across the LGA to help us understand condition and pressures and guide management decisions and priorities. You can check out our latest Central Coast Waterways report card on the Love Our Waterways website. With respect to sustainable catchment management, recommendations 29 and 42 focused on improved enforcement of erosion and sediment control, something that's sorely needed, as well as landholder education and support in the catchments. We've been running accredited erosion and sediment control training for local builders, TAFE apprentices, landscapers, contractors, and council staff. So far, we've run 11 workshops, which can go towards builders' continuing professional development accreditation, and we've designed a builder's toolkit to hand out to participants. We funded landholder workshops with local land services, which focus on improving the management of rural land, and we have used these forums to raise awareness about the incentive grant program. Overall, we will contribute $150,000 to private land improvement, with 6 properties already on the board. Typical works would include fencing off the creek, off-stream watering, weed control, and replanting of the riparian corridor. This builds on the many sites we've already worked on under various grant programs in the past. And in exciting news, the newly released Central Coast Regional Plan includes a specific planning priority for the Tuggerah District to protect water quality in Tuggerah Lakes and to ensure development has a neutral or beneficial impact on water quality. This is a massive step forward for Tuggerah Lakes. Ideally, these controls would apply to all development within the Tuggerah Lakes catchment, including the northern catchments, given we know so much already about the impact of development on current and future estuary health. And finally, recommendation 51 was about expanding the Lakes Festival to celebrate successes. Well, we had a wonderful relaunch of the Lakes Festival in November after a couple of years off due to COVID. We hosted 10 events over the 10 days, including an environmental short film festival, breakfast with the birds, kayak and bike tours, light up the lake, and the launch of Project Pelican, which was a huge success. The community have also produced an Experience the Entrance app, which includes walking tours of the Coast to Lake Walk and heaps of audio and video stories along the way. I highly recommend you check it out, which you can do by scanning the QR code on the screen. In terms of outstanding recommendations, most of them are complex or take a long time to deliver. There's still plenty to do to ensure our management is truly integrated and effective. For the next few years, the focus should be on completing the CMP and developing a sustainable catchment management plan. Reviewing water quality targets to align with the Central Coast Regional Plan and the New South Wales water quality objectives, and integrating these into Council's planning controls is critical as development accelerates. We need to improve the planning and delivery of water-sensitive urban design, noting that these devices are expensive to build and to maintain, and we already have a huge portfolio of them to manage. This may require some innovative solutions which are designed around a sustainable funding model. Improved erosion and sediment control and enforcement remains a priority, as well as revising the old creek rehabilitation plans, which are now well out of date. Local land services are better positioned to lead this process, given their ongoing work with landholders to improve what is primarily private land. Of course, ongoing education, behaviour change and empowerment is important to build on the achievements to date. It is really heartwarming to see the changing narrative around Tuggerah Lakes over the past 10 years, and I really hope to see it continue as we build trust and work together towards a better future for the lakes. And the last thing I want to leave you with is that the water quality is improving. Over the past 10 years, we've seen measurable improvements in water quality at 70% of locations. The estuary management plan set out to maintain water quality, which it's achieved, but we know that in order to achieve the community's vision and values for Tuggerah Lakes, a significant improvement in ecological health, water quality, and amenity is required. The current condition and gradual improvement does not meet these values at many places or ensure a healthy or sustainable future. The CMP and the catchment management plan, along with sustainable funding, will be critical in achieving this outcome. And of course, we will continue to deliver priority actions on the ground from our estuary management plan in the interim. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to know anything more about our CMP or our other waterway management programs, you can visit the website or Google Central Coast Waterways.